Welcome back to 9WX TV. Now today's episode is all about my Porsche 996, aka Little Irish. Now I've got two modifications for you today's episode. One from inside the car, one from outside. Can you spot them yet? Now both of the modifications involve genuine Porsche parts. The interesting bit is they are from way before and also a little bit after the 996 generation. Let's take a look. At last, my 996 seats are leaving the building. I purchased a set of mint condition 987 sports seats from a Porsche breakers yard, which will make a huge improvement to the driving experience of my 911. Whether the seats are from a 997 or 987, this is a worthy upgrade for your 996. And coming up, we're going to show you how to make the swap. Ta-da! I thought it'd be a good idea to put the seats side by side. So you've got 996 and 997. Incidentally, because we've just whipped this out as you've seen, I have had the 997 seat in as well quickly off camera, just to make sure that the runners line up, which they do perfectly, that's fine. The issue with the 997 or 987 sports seat is going to be the wiring. The base is mechanically operated, but the backrest is electronic, and it's not a straight swap with the 996's connectors. Also with the 997, we've got the airbag for the POSIT, Porsche Side Impact Protection. The 997 seats have the airbag built in, the 996 doesn't. Anyway, just ergonomically, before we actually put the 997 seat into the 996, I think it's really good to get these two seats side by side to show just how much, again, of this ergonomic improvement there is with the factory 997 seat over the 996. I mean, the first thing to look at visually is just how much more lateral hold there is in the 997 seats. In those side bolsters, they're a lot thicker, a lot more pronounced than the 996, that just are a little bit more timid by comparison. The backrest of the 997 really is nice and sunk back, so you can get your back into it quite nicely. I mean, immediately it's a better fit up the sides and around the shoulders. We'll do this properly when it's in the car, by the way. Whereas here, it's not a snug fit at all. There's a lot more ease of movement there, which is obviously not what you want in a sports car. The other thing to notice, and again, I'm hoping you can pick this up on camera, is just how much lower you sit in the 997 seat over the 996. As I say, the base of the 997 is operated mechanically, and it can go really low. The 996 seat, although it's fully electric, it just doesn't have provision for that. It's a good colour match as well. It's Metropole blue in the 996, it's ocean blue in the 997. Again, as you can see, it's a pretty good colour match, so fingers crossed, all should go well. I'll hand over to the experts that can actually get the seats in and wired up properly, and we'll see where we go from there. I'm just so relieved, I think, to get rid of these seats first and foremost. Comfort factor is probably the chief reason I can't wait to frisbee these seats out of the window. There's no lateral hold. Again, I like doing track days and they offer no hold whatsoever, which is actually quite dangerous more than anything. In terms of looks, I mean, well, to me, ruffled leather wasn't even in fashion when these seats were new, let alone a quarter of a century later. Just thinks it makes them look even more shagged than what they kind of actually are. So, yeah, they've got to go. They've absolutely got to go. You can tell I'm excited. Again, when you sit in the car, it's where you spend 100% of your time. I know I've said it before, but I mean, I just need to drum that home. So this is going to be such a worthwhile modification to my mind. Let's see how we get on. Let's get up the road to Bahnsport.
To basically get the 997 seats into the 996, we need to modify the wiring and the connectors because the connections are different. So firstly, these seats have only got the electronic backrest, so the motors only control the backrest forwards and backwards. So on these, they're quite nice and simple. So you've literally just got a live and an earth that we've just piggybacked and taken straight out of the block connector, and then they're just a simple connection then straight into the car for the original 996 connection, which again, we've just got a live and an earth connection point. These do have a side airbag, but obviously we don't have the wiring or anything for that, so we leave that open circuit disconnected. And likewise, this has also got connections for the heated seats, but we're not going to be wiring those in. So hopefully it's just a nice simple connection, live and an earth for the motor for the backrest, and it should be straight in with no problems.
Nice, simple as that, hey?
Simple as that.
Scott began by removing the 996 passenger side seat before assessing the electrics.
Yeah, literally just piggyback off those two, live and on earth, easy as that.
He then set about making new connections from the 996's existing live and earth, before doing away with the rest of the 996's now excess wiring. Ever diligent, Scott neatened up what was left, ready for the 997 seat, but not before checking the voltage.
Perfect. What voltage there?
Then it was time to introduce the 997 seat to its new home, connecting it to the 996's wiring before bolting the seat into the 996 floor, a straightforward task, and torquing the bolts to 50 Newton meters. And that was the passenger thrown in. Yes.
So driver's side on this car is a little bit more tricky, as the car has got the optional seat memory. So there's basically a control unit that sits under the driver's seat on this side that obviously memorises and operates the seat for the seat memory. A lot of the wiring we don't need anymore, so the control unit can come out with the car. So basically all we're after is the main live and earth, which is that one there. So that's going to be controlling the seat back, forward and back. And then we've got the airbag buckle receptacle that detects whether the seatbelt's in or off for the warning and the light for the airbag for the seatbelt. So basically what we need to do is just piggyback off the two wires for that. The connections are also different on the 997 seats. So we actually use the 996 seat buckle receptacle that's then transferred onto the 997 seat. And then we'll just piggyback those two wires, and then that should all be operational and functional. So there'll be a little bit more wiring tucked under the seat on this side, but we'll tidy it all up so it'll all look nice and smart.
A short while later, both seats were in. Scott's final task to ensure the install hadn't thrown up any codes on the 996's ECU. And that was it. Housed and fully functional, it was time to hit the road and trial them out for the first time. Amazing. Right, pop the mic away. Definitely lower down. Let's get an adjustment up. Right, so that is as low as we can go. Definitely lower. Where's the electric back? So my mic failed for the rest of that segment of my first drive with the seats in the car, but regardless, a couple of weeks down the line now I'm able to offer perhaps a bit more of a well-rounded assessment of the seats without perhaps so much of the emotion involved of when the seats were first fitted. So all's well and good in the end. However, just look at them. Look at them. I am so chuffed with how these seats have turned out with the fit. Somebody I know, a friend of mine called Toby, who watches and subscribes to this channel, I'm very grateful of that. Toby also has a 996 and he similarly has fitted 997 seats into his 996. The process with him is a little bit more complicated incidentally, because he's plumbing in the heated seats and the memory and all the rest of it. It's a bit more involved, and he said via my Instagram page when I mentioned I was putting these in that it's the best mod you can do to a 996. I would say it's the second best, certainly. I still maintain that the best value for money mod you can do is to get a set of aftermarket coilovers on your car. It transforms the ride from a tired 25-year-old sports car, as I said before. Behind that probably is the seats, and it kind of goes back to what I said at the start of the video, and that's that everybody overlooks seat choice, whether it's speccing a brand new car or purchasing a used car. The sentiment is still the same. People tend to overlook just how important seat choice is to any vehicle. It's the one place as a driver you can guarantee you're going to be spending 100% of your time when you're behind the wheel. It's as simple as that. So getting it right is absolutely crucial. And that's where the 997 or 987 seats really do kind of come into their own in that regard. Ergonomically, they are leap years ahead of the 996. So there's more of a bolster to kind of contend with when hopping in and out of the car. But again, it's a sports car here, not a sofa. So very, very happy to kind of deal with that. That's absolutely fine. There's so much actual lateral hold now. Flinging this car around corners, as I have done in the couple of weeks since the seats have been fitted, you're held still. Wonderful. It's just like the basic requirement of a sports seat, really. You are held in place, you're not sloshing around the interior as you were with the 996 seats. So that's the first big wing. Lateral hold, much improved. Second of all is where you sit. I'm definitely sitting lower in these 997 or 987 seats compared to the 996, which two advantages really. The first thing is you're lowering the centre of gravity of the car, so that's a big win. The other thing is, and I mentioned this earlier in the video, where I've had this aftermarket Momo wheel fitted and the circumference of the wheel is nearer to my eyes. Previously, where I sat higher, it cut off the top of the 996's 5 dials ahead of me. With the 997 seat, where I'm sitting as low as possible, thanks to this mechanical adjustment, I can get really nice and down low, and it means that again I can now see all 5 dials on the car. The height and position of the base, as well as the position of the seats on the runners, that's all mechanical. I don't mind that at all. Again, on the 996 they were fully electric, but sliding this nib back and forth as the seat makes slow progress forwards and backwards, particularly when you just want to like lump some shopping or a dog in the back, that's not helpful in any way, shape or form. So I'm pleased therefore with the mechanical nature of the 997, no problem at all. Comfort wise, as I say, these things are so much more comfortable than the 996. It's actually unbelievable, and I'm not the only person that thinks that either. I've had Mrs. Sibbs in the seat as well, and she agrees, and she's got a bad back, so kind of comfort is a big thing, certainly for her as well as anybody really. And she is also of the opinion that the 997 seats are just far more comfortable than the 996. The other thing is, in terms of looks, aesthetics, they look a million times better than the 996. I'm so pleased the ruffled leather has gone, which, as I say, was never in fashion, let alone gone out of it. But also the colour match is really good. To the everyman and woman, you wouldn't, or they wouldn't know that these seats were actually not designed for this car originally. I think that is about it. Epic looks to the seats, superbly comfortable as well, much better seating position, and actual lateral hold. It really is a worthy upgrade. I fully recommend it. If you're considering it, do it. And the other thing is as well, is you could probably get a little bit of money back to offset the cost just by selling your 996 seats. Okay, so the seat modification relates to some Porsche parts after the 996 era. My next mod in this video very much comes from before the 996's time, and that's because I've swapped out this badge for this classic badge from the F-series era. That's the mid-1970s era of Porsche 911. We'll take a look, first of all, at the historical differences between the two badges, crests or emblems, and then I'll show you a fitting guide for what is a pretty straightforward swap from this badge to this F-series classic logo. First things first, how do we know that the old badge will fit in with the new? Well, if you listen to our podcast on 9works Radio, you'll know that my local Porsche dealership, which is Porsche Centre Bournemouth, is one of only 5 Porsche Classic partners in the UK. And it was on a recent chat with head of Classic at Porsche Bournemouth, Mr. John Piper, where we realised actually there is a hell of a lot of interchangeability and availability of Classic parts. One of them is the crest, and funnily enough, there's a display which currently at the time of filming had a soft window 911S Targa, a rare beast in the UK that. Next to that there was a display of the old crests, and having a look on the back of them I realised, well, the fit is identical to my 996. I then had a bit of a design brainwave and thought, well, the orange on the coat of arms on the Porsche, classic Porsche crest would go quite nicely with the amber indicator lenses on my 996, hence the swap. If you're interested in doing anything similar, I'm going to put the part numbers, respective part numbers, in the description below so you can check it out. As I say, this is a genuine Porsche Classic part. What you'll also need, that I didn't realise at first, and it wasn't until the guys at Right Tune pointed it out and posted me the correct items, so that's good, is you're going to need a new gasket for this Classic crest because it's ever so slightly wider than the original that comes on the 996. You'll also need some funny nuts to attach the badge to the bonnet. So as I say, first thoughts, the classic badge is a little bit lighter actually than the original. Whilst we all like weight saving, it's minimal, and actually it does make this original 996 badge feel a little bit more quality, if that makes sense. This is kind of a little bit perhaps too light for me. On the back, as you'll be able to see, they've both got their Porsche part number. Both are made in Germany. Always matters, doesn't it, with these Porsche parts? Sign of quality. So what is the history lesson behind this crest then? Well, this crest was created in 1952. Again, the brainchild of Max Hoffmann, really. He who was known for taking Porsche to the US and making it such commercial success with the 356 and the introduction of the Speedster in the 1950s. It was his idea to have a crest on the front of the Porsche 356 as a seal of approval. So it was from there that a chap in 1952 called Xaver Rimspies, and I'll pop a written version of his name there in case I've butchered the pronunciation, apologies if so, but Herr Xaver Rimspies created what we know as the Porsche crest. At the centre of the crest you've got a golden plate or shield depicting the prancing horse, so the official Stuttgart coat of arms, as well as the name of the city. Surrounding that we've got the red and black stripes. They are the state colours of Württemberg, as well as the stylised antlers, so that's taken again from the crest of Württemberg, which is the local area that Stuttgart is in. You've then got the Porsche typography sitting at the top, which really acts as a protective roof over all the other design elements according to Porsche. Now, as I say, in terms of differences between the classic badge and the 996 era badge, Millennium era badge, you can see that the classic badge is a little bit more kind of matte in appearance. The newer one is a bit more shiny. The Porsche typography at the top was just embossed. It wasn't actually black, and as you can see, there is a slight change to the typography itself. This newer kind of Porsche typography that we all know has been around since the 1960s, so that came along sometime later. The Stuttgart shield is wider on the crest on the classic compared to the new, and then most obviously perhaps the orange stripes that featured on the classic crest were swapped out for red elements on more newer stuff. That's the history lesson over, as well as kind of the top level differences between the classic badge and the modern badge. Let's get on to fitting the classic badge on Little Irish. Access to the badge is via the underside of the front boot, as you can see here, so it's nice and easy. Unscrew both nuts using an 8mm socket, then you can whip off the badge and rubber gasket from the bonnet. You can then get your new classic badge and fit the rubber gasket to it. Do up the 2 new nuts and that's it, you're all done. That wraps up today's video. 2 cool mods using genuine Porsche parts from different periods of the 911's history to benefit my own Millennium era 996. Cheers for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you again soon.